Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Insights Fusion. Today, we have a guest who helps you to sell more, uh, use a better sales process, and follow up strategies. And his name is Drewbie Wilson. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me to the show today. I'm excited to be here and share a little bit of knowledge with your audience today.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So, what is it you do?
As you so eloquently put in the introduction, the easiest way to say it is I help people sell more of their product and services with better sales systems and follow up routines that aren't spammy or obnoxious. Because we've all met someone who they're very, very salesy. Everything they put out is very, very salesy. And, respectfully, I understand the hustle. However, I prefer more of a relationship type of sales. So I like to think about how can we nurture, how can we entertain, educate. And so for me, I believe that the processes we use are really about the long term of life and sales. And so to me, I think that's really how we help people do things just a little bit differently than everybody else.
Interesting. So, I'm very curious because I'd like to consider myself entrepreneur, at least startup person. I have met the sales fun and tried it, and I'm really curious. So what's your secret? How do you approach it?
Um, for me, long story short, and I've written a couple of books that are on Amazon if you guys want to go check them out. I don't want to, be shamelessly promoting myself, but the reason I wrote the books is to share some of these more in-depth stories. But the too long didn't read version is I grew up in the street selling anything and everything I could get my hands on. I'll let you leave that to the imagination. And as I got older, got married, met a pretty lady, we had a son together, I realized that I didn't want to end up dead or in prison because that's where the fast money typically leaves most people is not in a good place. And so I got into the more legitimate side of sales. I worked for a tobacco store for a short time, helped them become one of the best in the city, ended up going to sell furniture for a while, got into insurance, and insurance was where I really cut my teeth on phone sales because when you have a product that someone needs, whether it's drugs or tobacco or furniture, they're coming in with the intent to purchase. Whereas with insurance, let's just say, or some of the other industries that exist, it's more of we have to go and find people who are maybe interested in what we offer and seeing if we can get them to trust us enough to do business together. Now, there is a need for insurance. Everybody has to have it. But for the most part, once you set it up, you don't want to mess with it unless you like get a crazy rate increase or you get something new, right? There has to be a major life event in order for you to really consider making that change. And so I was 200, 300 cold calls a day, just hammering the phones. And what I really learned in that industry is that it's about service because with a commodity like insurance, let's just say, people are paying a monthly rate to make sure they're protected for their home, their auto, maybe life insurance, right? There's a lot of different products in that service, but we pay for it. It's there. We don't want to mess with it. And if we trust the person that we're working with on that service, even if the rate goes up just a little bit, so long as it's not painful enough to cause issues in other areas of our life, we're not going to make a change. And if someone's
Mhm.
calling to try to solicit you to switch carriers, if you trust the person that you work with, if there's a relationship, you're less likely to just up and go, even if they can save you a little bit of money, because there's things that go along with that. Change is a difficult thing, which to me is really where, like I said, I think the relationship side of sales is so important because if people can know who you are, if they can like what you're about, your personality, your style, your vibe, whatever you want to call it, and there's a level of trust between the two of you because they know that you genuinely care about them getting the solution to their problem and they genuinely care about working with someone who cares about them. That's where the trust comes in, and know like trust is, in my opinion, the secret sauce to sales. If you want people to buy from you, if you want people to do business with you, be a likable person, care about others, And it's amazing what you'll start to see happen in your life and in your business.
Interesting. But I suppose we're not talking about cold phone sales now. When you talk about, be likable, be like a normal person, not very annoying, because I imagine in cold sales, you know, you won't just call them and like, hey, what's up? Yeah, are you good?
I would challenge you though, because if someone's going to
Really?
cold call, if they know the right process and they know how to ask the right questions to get the attention of the person who they know they're supposed to be speaking with, well then how do you meet new friends in school? How do you meet new friends in life as you get older? You go and you talk to strangers. You say hello. You say, "Hey, I like your
Mm-hmm.
jacket. What kind of coffee are you going to order today? What did you order? That looks delicious. I'd love to know more." Like, there's these little openers that you use in every area of your life, and cold calling and sales is the same way. We're just trying to find the opener that feels genuine and authentic.
Interesting. Whenever I get a call and they ask me something like that, I don't know, maybe it's a personal thing. I get suspicious. I'm like, are you gonna scam me?
Well, I you buy how you sell and you sell how you buy. And so if you're someone who's
Mm-hmm.
constantly nervous or concerned that you're going to get scammed, well, do you feel like that energy could potentially come across to the people who you're doing business with? Because your own bias is now putting a perspective on the situation that maybe doesn't exist.
Okay, so what would be your advice to calm down people on the phone call? But I know it's probably from your training already, but maybe you can sneak peek a little bit inside, and what would be the process to handle it?
So let me clarify. When you say someone who's angry on the phone, are
No, so
they? Go ahead.
let's say they build a wall around them, so you call them and they immediately are suspicious. They think, oh, this guy's just want to sell me something expensive.
Well, typically, depending upon who we're going to be calling, I will create a process, like I said, to create a more gentle opener. And if someone does put a wall up, it's very easy to just say, you know what? I'm here to help. If that's something that you're open to, I would love to have a very clear conversation. If you don't want to buy anything today, I 100% respect that decision. But my job and duty as a part of this company and this product and service that I represent is to try to help as many people as I can. If that's something you'd like, awesome. If not, that's totally awesome too. Do you know anybody who might be interested in having a conversation with me at this point? Because if it's not for you, it's for someone, and I want to help that someone.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I usually apply this on Zoom calls. It's not a phone call, but it's Zoom, and they're like, these guys try to sell, and try to say, well, this is a free call. You just share your struggles, and I will just give you advice for free. And if you like, you can make a decision later, something like that.
But you bring
Yeah.
up a good point though, because I think what has happened as more educated buyers, we now notice when someone is trying to do a bait and switch, right? The free strategy call is never just a free strategy call. There's always something behind the veil there, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
think it's so important to be very genuine, because at this point you and I have been online and in the internet marketing and sales world long enough as entrepreneurs to recognize those red flags. Because early on, it's like, oh, yeah, let me just give you some of my time. Let me just give you my most valuable asset for free. And no, people don't, they typically aren't just doing things out of the goodness of their heart. There is an intention behind that action, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
We all are intentional, like, I hope, are being intentional with our actions. And also, that awareness, that recognition makes you have to be even more transparent than ever, because we are so
Mm-hmm.
aware, because we have seen so many scams, because we see so many ads every day where someone's like, hey, I bought the thing and they never sent it to me, or I signed up and they just tried to sell me this super expensive package after I put my email in for a free download. Like, that is what
Mm-hmm.
you're actually aware of. It's just, it's your own internal protection going, hey, wait a second. I've been fooled before and I don't want to be fooled again. And so that's why, it's never like a free strategy call. It's always like, hey, let me give you a little something with the intention of maybe trying to sell you some more stuff after the fact. So for me, I just try to be very clear about that. Yes, we are a sales
Mm-hmm.
company. Yes, we have products, we have services. Our job is to sell things. And also, the only way we actually benefit from selling you something is if it's of value to you and you tell other people about it.
True, exactly. I Yeah, I actually experienced this week. Somebody gave a whole hour explaining me how to do things. Of course, initially they kind of let me know that if I like, I can buy. But it's like a sort of like a free trial, I suppose. That first conversation where you actually get something useful and you can take an action on it. Because like if it was like some limited information that it's like, oh, we understand the problem and we know how to fix it, but we won't tell you the full story, so you cannot really fix it yourself still. So it's like that would be very annoying, I guess. But if you like, usually the client, in my understanding, if they don't have enough time to fix it anyway, they will pay, like as long as you can fix it. So probably there's a question if you actually have like skills and credibility to do that with action or
Well,
service or whatever.
you bring up a great point. This is why in we're this 2025 when we're recording this episode. So you could be listening to this years and years down the road. That's the value of a podcast like this and why I'm so grateful you've given me the time to share some of this on your platform because this stuff lives forever. It's value to someone who wants to learn. And so what we're starting to see a lot of right now, I see this in the home services industry especially is plumbers will literally go and create a YouTube channel and they'll give you the step-by-step process. How do you change out a toilet? How do you unclog a sink? They'll teach you step by step how to do these things, what chemicals, what tools, all the things that you need, because they know that at a certain point, as you just said, there is a level of individuals who will just say, you know what? I'm 5-10 minutes into this project and I'm already mad. So let me just call an expert. And turns out the guy that I'm watching on YouTube is in my town, so I might as well just call them and have them come fix it because like the proof is in the pudding. Obviously he can do the
Mm-hmm.
job and this is where giving value on the front end is what creates that credibility. It's what creates that trust because hey, if I'm willing to literally teach you how to do this yourself and not pay me, which is my whole career is getting paid to do this job or this service, but I'm going to teach you
Mm-hmm.
everything you need to know. If you're the kind to go and do it yourself, you're going to go and do it yourself anyways. But there's a lot of
Right.
people who realize after a short minute that they don't want to do the work because once they pull back the curtain and they pull out that stinky hair plug of the drain, nah, I'm out of it. I don't want to do this anymore. And that's where I
Right.
think it goes back to what you were talking about. Hey, if someone's going to give you some of their time and give you a strategy, give you a process, give you a solution to your problem, they're going to have the option to do it yourself for maybe a cost. Like they might give you a training or something, but then they're probably going to have a done with you service where it's like, hey, do you just want us to do it with you or do it for you? And everyone knows that we all have things in our life that we pay other people to do for us because we don't want to do it. And so you just have to decide where you fall into that spectrum and also recognize that as a buyer, this is what other people are trying to do. They're just trying to provide a product or service if they think it's a good fit.
I I think if you, let's say, watching a video and you see that this whole thing demonstrated how to do yourself, I think it might signal that there's such a complexity that the person on the video is not even afraid to share, because it is hard, to do. And it doesn't really matter if you know in theory that you need, some tools, some chemicals, and you have steps what to do. And the second thing is like you might not have those chemicals and tools, and then you will look how much does it cost, and you really need like a small glass of that chemical, like 200 milliliters, something like that, and you have to buy the whole bottle. You might need a wrench, you might need something else, and you look, it's like it costs more or less the same as the service itself, maybe even more sometimes, depends on what tools you actually need.
Yeah,
Interesting.
100%. And this is where I think it's so important to understand, hey, what is your time worth? because time is your most valuable asset. Time, energy, and effort. We can all make more money. We all have a skill set of some sort that we've developed at this level of our lives. And those of you who are here listening are clearly trying to continue developing. You don't listen to a podcast like this and he hasn't been so kind as to give us this platform to share the knowledge for no reason. And so if you're here, you're trying to grow, you're trying to get better. Continue sharing that story and open up and just realize that like time is valuable. We cannot buy more of it. We cannot win it in a poker tournament. No one gets a card full of it on their birthday. It's usually like, hey, congratulations, you have one less year to live. Happy birthday. It's so strange, but yet people just act like they have this unlimited amount of time. Like, oh, I'll get to that later. I'll do that thing when. But the truth is, you have to decide in those moments. If it's broken right now and you're in pain, are you going to invest your time, energy, and effort to fix it? Or would it make more sense for you to focus that time, energy, and effort on the thing you're best at and pay someone else to do the job? Because there is oftentimes your time is worth more than the job that you're doing, and you're stealing from yourself, your future, your family, your business, because you're too stubborn to realize that someone else could probably do it for you better and for less than what it's costing you right now.
Right. Correct. Correct. I have probably more experience in B2B, not that much in B2C. Do you work with both or more into B2C?
I do a B2B and B2C. So with our brand called The
Uh-huh.
Damn Leads, we have books, keychains, hats, wristbands, swag that says call the damn leads. The fun little reminders that you can put on your desk or put on your coworkers' desks. So that's a lot of business to consumer. But from a consulting standpoint, I work with business owners all across the country and the globe. We come in and work with them very specifically to build the better systems, processes, the routines, the mindset that's required to show up and make 100 calls a day, be told no, get rejected, deal with all of the things that go along with building a business. And so I do both sides of it, to be honest with you. Where do you want to go with that question?
Oh, well, maybe I wanted to talk a bit more about B2B stuff
Yeah,
because
bring it on. We got a little time, I
it's
think. What
more.
what 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 do you got?
First thing, I've been told by my friend in the US that you cannot really call it that easily to other companies, like cold calls. In some states, you cannot even call, let's say, before 8 and after, I don't remember, 5 or 6. You might get
I
fined
believe it's
for
eight
that
to eight. Yeah,
initiative.
so it's called TCPA compliance. I don't know what the exact Telephone Communication Protection Act, I think is what it stands for. And the idea there is to protect consumers, honestly, from being spammed and being called day and night by people just trying to sell them stuff. Because you're right, no one just wants to be cold called, and it is more and more difficult now than ever, which is why I always say the genuine, authentic relationship building is so important. Um, but yeah, there's rules to who you're able to send text messages to, who you can email, call, what times you're allowed to call. They've even been pushing it so far recently and talking about where if someone hasn't explicitly giving your company specifically the permission to call them, then you'd be breaking those compliance rules. So all the online lead generation agencies, it's like, oh, we sell leads to 5 or 6 different companies at a time, that would go right out the door because you wouldn't be legally able to do that anymore. Um, and I think it's a good thing. Honestly, I think it's good to protect people from the spam and all the things that go on when you don't know what you don't know. And I think that's what really makes professionals stand out more than ever, because you have to truly understand what you're doing and have a next level of competence to be able to do things in a way that doesn't A, break the law and put you at risk for being fined or put in jail, and B, gets through the noise of all of the other people who are being spammy and obnoxious trying to get the attention of either the individual or the business. And honestly, in my opinion, even in a B2B situation, you're still working with an individual. It's not like you
Yeah.
call McDonald's and the Golden Arches rings you back and it's like, hey, it's the Golden Arches. What do you need? No, it's John from McDonald's corporate and whatever sector he's in. it's still a
Mhm.
personal transaction. There's still a relationship there. It's just a different level of value that has to be provided in order for a franchise or a corporation to decide a relationship with you from a business standpoint makes sense. Hopefully I explained that well.
Yes, interesting. I'm think I just came up with an idea, but let's see what's your take. Can we do like a micro case study or like a brainstorming session or like a mini workshop? I would give a case, and then we could just think what could be done differently, what could be the options.
Do you have an example we could run through?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on with
So,
it. Let's try.
um, all right. So we were building a startup um, for AI recruiting. So it is SaaS B2B. So companies can plug in the system into the, let's say, CRM or applicant tracking systems. And that thing basically takes the applicant CV, makes assessment, and puts the result back to the main system. So it's like, SaaS.
Sure.
Quite an, I guess, popular type of the startups, And what was done, we purchased reply.io subscription, and then we applied to AI SDR, so basically sales development rep AI. It kind of was weird. I've probably used it like 5% of that whole thing because, cold emails, it's still the same template. And we started purchasing credits for contacts and basically like, company position
Leads.
HR,
Sure.
high level and go. It's like 10,000 emails in a couple of months, but it's like 5 calls booked roughly. So basically that's the story. What could be done in such case, when you kind of, how to build stuff, few things like few tools here and there, that you need to blast with emails, what else? What other smart things could be done in such cases?
Well, I think there's a couple things I would break apart here. A, it's important to understand that even with all the best tools, an unskilled operator is more likely to hurt themselves than be successful. And so it kind of think about it like this. If you gave a 16-year-old who's just learning how to drive a car a brand new Lamborghini or a Ferrari, how comfortable are you going to feel with them operating that machine? Probably,
Not very. No,
yeah, it might be hit
it's
or miss. Now,
couldn't even use the word comfortable at all in that sense.
now, here's the other side of it. If that same 16-year-old had been on farm equipment and ATVs and been driving cars and racing go-karts since they were 2 foot high, then
Mhm.
that same 16-year-old in a Lamborghini is not an issue. Like, yeah, of course, go ahead, you're fine. You
At
have the
all.
skill set to use that tool. And this is where I think, especially in your case study scenarios, like, hey, we just started blasting off 10,000 emails a day or 10,000 emails a month or
A
whatever. It's
month.
like, okay,
Yeah.
well, was that a skilled approach or was that like a, hey, we're just going to spray and pray and hope that, if we shoot 100 shots into the air, that maybe we hit one duck along the way?
It was not it wasn't like zero skill because we sit and like we've seen this done before in other companies we work.
I've
And
seen
like
people
there's
get in a
some
race car and
theory,
drive 300 miles, but it doesn't mean that I necessarily need to get in a race car and drive 300 miles an hour.
it's same like I can talk, I can do podcast. I know how to drive simple car, I can go to NASCAR. Something like
And
that.
I only bring this up because in this case study scenario specifically, you asked me how would you approach it differently? I
Mm-hmm.
would have been very intentional about thinking, who is my avatar? Who am I speaking to and why? What value am I bringing to the relationship that I'm trying to build here? Because that's got to be number one. Like, I need to know that whatever I'm going to bring to this situation between this individual or this business that I'm trying to transact with is going to be so much more than what it's going to cost them from a monetary standpoint. that I have to be intentional about who I'm speaking to first. Because now I know, hey,
Mm.
this is their avatar. This is what they're going through. This is the problems they're dealing with. These are the things that they want. This is their goal in their business. Now I have a reason to build that line of communication. At which point, then, sure, use the AI to fire off emails and text messages and build frameworks. Like, I'm not saying not to use the tool. What I'm saying is to be more intentional about using the tool and which tools are going to get you the best return on their investment, because there is a cost. Every time you send an
Mm.
email, it might cost you a half a nickel or whatever, a half a penny. Every time you send a text message, it might cost you a penny. Every time you open up a new software subscription, it's $100 a month, $200 a month. There are expenses that you're using to generate this opportunity. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, hey man, if I don't want to waste my resources, I'm not going to put a 16-year-old with no skill in my Lamborghini. I'm going to put him in my Honda Civic or my Geo hatchback that's all rusted, and I have no worries if they crash it, like we're going to be out anything. And to go with that, email isn't the only form of communication. What if you had a plan to where you were sending an email and then following them up with a phone call, and then maybe finding them on LinkedIn or Facebook or the social media platform where they're active, and you start engaging with their content? And maybe you start doing this on a weekly cycle over a 90-day time span, to where every time they log in, whether it's their email or on social media, your name is subconsciously being planted in there because you just keep showing up. You just keep showing up. At some point, if you've built enough rapport by showing up and letting them see that you genuinely care about what they have going on, do you think there's a chance that you're more likely to maybe get a chance to tell them about what you do?
Definitely. It feels like the chance increases a lot.
That would
Much
be
more
my
than just
response for
blasting
your case.
emails.
That like that that would be how I would approach it differently.
Interesting. But it sounds a bit counterintuitive, because when you think, okay, I can put in like $500, I get like 10K emails, I will blast the whole thing and might get 2 calls, let's say. But it's easier. You pay, you kind of put a bunch of
Hey man,
those
if you got
emails,
unlimited
make a
funds, like
template.
spend them out. Here's the thing you have to think about. It's math. All right, you spent $500 and you sent 10,000 emails. I would be curious though. That's all in. That was the cost of the software, the cost of the emails that you sent, that $500 total. If
No,
so,
it's
all
just
right.
contacts.
Oh, well, okay. So you got $500 for contacts. You probably have a $50 a month subscription to your email service. You probably have, like I said, to send 10,000 emails, it might have cost you another $50 that month. So now you're at $500, $550, $600 total investment. Let's say you get 2 leads out of it. Okay, great. Those 2 leads cost you $300 each. How much was the product or service that you were selling?
Oh, subscriptions in thousands monthly.
Okay, let's say $2,500 a month. All right, so you spent $600. You got 2 leads. Did you sell either of them?
No.
Okay, so now you're $600 in the hole. Did you do that for like several months in a row?
Well, it's in theory ongoing, but it's throttled down because
Because
it,
resources are
you
limited,
know,
right? Because you don't want to keep spending
yeah,
money and not seeing a return on your investment. That's why
I
I
start
start
thinking
looking at.
whether it's, yeah, it's start thinking whether it's really a smart idea to do that.
Well, let this be one of those things. I always try to, every time I'm on a podcast like this, I hope that at least one person, maybe it's you or maybe it's a listener, can hear something I share and go, you know what? I don't know what I don't know. That's why I'm here, because I want to learn. I'm open to seeing what else other people are doing that are successful. So you don't know what you don't know. But now that you
Hmm.
know, you have a decision to make. Do you keep doing it the same way, thinking that things are going to change? Or are you open to perspective that, hey man, if I beat my head against this rock wall, I'm probably going to fall down before it does?
True that. So it's probably financially, definitely, it's easier to focus on one company and one maybe couple people, because you can follow them, and if you close, it's still good deal, and you haven't really spent that much. But blasting, you still have a very low chance that you're gonna close the lead. You might get somebody interested. They might be also irrelevant people. you don't really know if you buy that bunch of contacts. Might be some random person from the company, or maybe they're not even working there, and you will book the call and feel like a win. But when after the call, it might seem that okay, it's a miss a bit.
It's
Interesting.
all about knowing the numbers. That's the thing. Methods are many, principles are few. Methods may vary, but principles never do. That was a quote from my mentor. There's a million ways to make $1 million. But anyone who's ever made $1 million will tell you they had some core things that they had to do consistently in order to make that a reality. And so I'm not saying that what you're saying is the wrong way to go about it. I'm just saying that from a resource standpoint, know your numbers. Hey, if I can spend $5,000 a month to try and acquire new prospective leads and clients, and I can afford that, awesome. How long can you do that? How long before that $5,000 turns into $5,000, 6, 10, 12, 15? Because hey, if I got to spend $5,000 today, knowing that in 90 days I'm going to have 25 grand that comes back in the door, I just need to know that I can invest that 5,000 and make it 90 days till my return. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's resource management. But a lot of times people are just continuing to throw these things out there with no system, no process, no way to track what they're actually doing and if it's working, which is why they constantly feel like they have to pivot and do different things because they don't have any true measurement of what's working. They're just looking at the money in their bank going down, going down, going down, and they're going, I got to do something. And then they get on the phone and they're pitching anything and everything they can for whatever dollar amount, just praying that someone will pay them some money so that they can pay rent on the first. And how many
Mm-hmm.
times have you seen this? How many times have you met people going through that same cycle? Because they're not being intentional
Yeah,
with their
yeah.
time, energy, and effort, which is why they're not making the money they need to do the things they need to keep doing.
Yeah, as I get sometimes such an irrelevant calls. Like today, also got a call, and they saying, "Oh, we can sell you courses on how to build a website." I'm like, really?
Why? We have AI
Like,
that can build a
well,
website in 10
yeah,
seconds. We need a course to build
uh,
websites for.
uh,
Like,
yeah. What I'm saying to her, like, I'm literally consulting companies on how to build massive systems, and you are
they didn't
selling
do
me a
their
website.
research, right? They started sending, they didn't know who their avatar was. So they're just thinking, hey, I can help anyone. And I promise you, you don't want to sell everyone with a credit card and a pulse. You don't want that much business. If you're listening to this right now, it's likely if I walked in right now and said, hey, I have 100 people ready to sign up and operate and work with you. Here's their credit cards. Let's start swiping. Your business would absolutely crumble and fall apart. You don't have the infrastructure for 100 brand new clients tomorrow. It would break you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be given refunds. And then what would that say about your current stature? Would you get a bunch of 5-star Google reviews if you had to refund people because you couldn't do the thing you promised them you could do?
No way.
Right. And so this is like where I really try to be intentional with people and help them see that what you're doing isn't necessarily wrong, but if you're not measuring it and you're not tracking it and you're not creating a process to continue improving it, then it's probably going to continue to get you the same kind of results that you've always been getting.
I think it's definition of insanity if you keep doing the same thing and expect for different results.
You nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, but it's hard to do something different. Also, obviously, there's a big difference for an existing business when you have sold something already. So kind of imagine a better user persona or profile of that target. You haven't for the startup, that you came up with an idea, you're making something, but you don't really know who will buy it and how much you will need to change it, right?
Ugh.
What would be your advice for those who, haven't sent any emails yet, but have built something?
It starts with the foundation. Who are we talking to? What are we offering them? And how are we doing so? You got to have an audience, you got to have an offer, and you have to have a delivery system. That is the foundation. So if you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I've got this idea, I've got a product, I've got a service, this is a thing, like you have an offer. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Who is going to benefit the most from your offer? And don't say everyone. Do not say everyone. Specifically, what's their age? Where do they spend their time? What kind of music do they listen to? What television shows do they watch? Where do they hang out? What keeps them up at night? You need to know these individuals on a deeper level than they really know themselves. Because that's when you're having the conversation and you're delivering the offer, the product, the service. You're able to have a genuine conversation with them, be empathetic, and be saying, you know what? I totally understand where you're coming from. I've seen that with a lot of our other clients or people that we speak to along the way. This is a big issue. And I just need to know, like, if we are confident that this product can help you, do you want to make a change in your life? Do you want to solve this problem? And that's it. Empathy, confidence, make it easy. Genuinely care about people, and then be 100% confident that your product or service is the right fit to help them solve that problem. And the bigger the problem that you solve for them, the more money they're going to pay you for it. Because I promise you, the guy that goes out and says, hey, I've got the cure for cancer, will be the richest man in the world and then be dead within minutes because people won't be happy, because people are getting rich off keeping people from getting the cure for cancer. The bigger the problem you
Yeah.
solve, the more money you will make. So really be thinking about, what is the big problem that my people are dealing with, and how can I help them solve it? And how can I be so 100% confident that my product or service is going to solve it that I feel it's my duty to pick up the phone and call the damn leads and talk to these people and see if I can help them? Because that's the difference. A lot of people don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to call. They hide behind automated emails and they hide behind all these other AI tools because they're not confident in their ability to actually do what they're telling their other people they're going to do.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. Wondering, could you tell about about an epic fail, that you've seen? Something terrible went wrong, something like that.
I'll tell you about an epic fail that I had. I got into sales and marketing and thought, you know what, man, there's a really big need for a better software solution for CRMs. People need a better CRM, and I'm going to fix it for them. I'm going to build it for them. And I was passionate, I was excited, and my biggest mistake was trying to reinvent the wheel. There are people who have spent millions and millions and millions of dollars developing these CRM tools and these platforms. And I got into my resources, which were limited. And while the platform that we built did work and ultimately did make us money, the big failure was spending years of time, energy, and effort on something that ultimately I should have known from the get-go wasn't going to be able to compete with everybody else because I didn't have the resources or the infrastructure to do it. And so I spent 2-3 years trying to work with a bunch of business partners and all these people who I went to and was like, hey, we're going to build this amazing thing. And you know what? I objectively did a lot of work. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, equity partnerships don't put food on the table. And so when people aren't putting in the effort to work at the same level you are, and they're not bringing in revenue, and then they're wanting to know, hey, how am I going to eat? How am I going to pay rent? They're going to go get a job. And suddenly all the passion, all the excitement isn't there. So the big epic failure to
Mm-hmm.
me was trusting and really wanting other people to do the work that I knew I needed to do myself.
From my side, I could give an advice that worked for me at least is, if you doing equity partnership, chip in like 5 grand, something like that. So it would be painful to not to perform
Oh, we
for
did.
everybody,
Everybody chipped in. Yeah, everybody chipped in. And then when those
Really?
resources ran out,
In
I mean, again, like, you got to go and
it ran
sell the
out.
product or service. So, like, after all the money in the bank ran out, they were like, well, I can't keep working and
Yes.
not making money. And I'm like, cool, let's go sell this product or service. But hey, they didn't want to go and call the damn
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah. There was, asterisk. It has not to run out. Run out.
Oh, hey, listen, there's always a million different sides to the story. And that's what I'm so grateful for you giving me an opportunity to be on this show and share some of my perspective and my insights. Because, success is perspective. My version is different than your version. If you went and talked to our parents on the day we were born and said, hey, when your son is older or your daughter is older, what's their life going to look like if they're successful? I promise you, it's not anywhere close to what we're doing right now, recording podcasts or writing books or doing any of the things that, like, that's not what was on the table. Success for you is
Yeah.
what you make it. and be very intentional about how you get there with your time, energy, and effort, because those are the things you can't get back.
True, true. I remember like my grandmother was saying always like you have to be a priest. It's the most successful position. She's like 1900s years born, that kind of old person. Yeah, and then parents like stable job. Nowadays, it's more like fulfilling, something fulfilling. It's always different.
That's it.
Yeah, funny. All right, last question. So, what's your take on AI? How do you what's your prognosis of it?
I believe AI has been around for a long time. I think it's a buzzword. Your calculator was running artificial intelligence back in the 80s and 90s. It was doing the computations, it was running the math and the string of letters and numbers that make all of this AI a reality. So I don't think it's new. I think the way people are seeing it is new. I think the capabilities that it has are significantly growing at a very, very rapid rate. And what I foresee happening is that AI will 100% take the jobs of the people who aren't putting in the time, energy, and effort to grow their skill set. So if you're just comfortable getting by and doing whatever you're doing, not developing, not continuing to improve, I'm sorry to say AI at some point will probably take your job. However, those of you who are here listening to a call like this, who are continuing to educate yourself and trying to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening in the world around you, you're going to learn how to use AI, the new versions of AI that exist, as a tool to shortcut the things that take time, energy, and effort. As in, here's an example: writing email frameworks. At one point, you used to have to sit down and spend 2 to 3 hours writing out emails. Well, with AI, you can basically spend 2 to 3 minutes telling it what you need that email sequence to look like. It will do 80% of the work for you, building it out, writing the frame, getting it set up, and then you just have to go in and put another little 10% of editing time in to clean it up and make it make sense, because AI is not perfect. And anyone who understands it, at least at a minor level, we can immediately see when you're just trusting the AI blindly to create your content, because A, it doesn't sound anything like you. B, it doesn't make any sense, and it makes a lot of mistakes that you don't recognize because you're not paying attention. And C, that goes back to what you said earlier was, hey, I see the email, I see the cold message, and I immediately feel like I'm being sold. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Your AI is immediately showing everybody that you're taking the shortcut and that you're not
Yeah.
making the effort. And guess what that's creating? A disconnect in their level of trust for you to be able to do the thing that you're telling everybody that you can do.
Right. You can immediately spot if the email was done with ChatGPT if you're using ChatGPT yourself. It has its like vibe or sound, the
Listen,
wording
and
and
I'm not going to sit
structures.
here and tell you that I don't use it. I 100% use ChatGPT. Yeah, I'd be a fool not to leverage the tools. Think about it, if we were still building
Oh yes.
railroads by hand. That wouldn't make any sense. No, we use the tools and technology. The difference is you can see someone who's skilled at the tool and the technology and someone who isn't. It goes right back to what we talked about earlier. Would you put a 16-year-old in a Lamborghini? Probably not. But if you knew how he had been driving cars since he was a little guy, you're going to give them more of a chance. Guess what, y'all? If someone in the workplace knows that you've been using these tools and these things that exist for a number of years, and that you know how to create prompts and you know how to leverage the different aspects of what AI in this current version really requires to use as a tool, you're going to be one of the most successful individuals out there in the future. The secret is become
Definitely.
skilled at using the tools that exist. AI is a tool. Leverage it. Become skilled at it.
Yeah, some people forget that it's a tool and they still have to control it and be the brain and start using it as a brain, and then it leads to very weird,
Amen that the AI never creates its
destination.
own brain, brother. Then we're all in trouble. But until then,
Maybe we will be artists, painters, and won't need to work anymore.
we'll see.
Yeah. And it will feed us. And before we end, I'd like to ask you, maybe you can share with the audience where they can find you, why they can find you, and how can you help them?
I love that. And thank you again for the time to be here. This definitely was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the conversation. It wasn't the typical, I'm going to say, canned presentation type podcast. This really felt like a lot of fun, and I appreciate you being a great host. And so if you guys enjoyed this episode and you want to learn more about me and what we do at Call the Damn Leads, do me a favor. Share this specific episode on social media. Put it in your stories, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, like wherever you hang out. Share it and tag at Call the Damn Leads. Two reasons. One, it's going to do me and Ugandis the favor of letting people know, like, this was a episode that you spent your time, energy, and effort listening to, and you got something out of it. Because that's the most valuable thing. Like, we do this because we want to help. And so if you're willing to help us share this message with someone else who it could help, that's going to mean the world to me. And if you tag at Call the Damn Leads, or you visit callthedamnleads.com. Again, we've got cool swag. We've got books that I've written. I've got digital trainings, all kinds of different stuff. What I want to do is help you sell more of your products and services without feeling spammy or obnoxious, knowing that you have a dialed in sales routine that just absolutely crushes it. So come see us, share this episode, do all the things, and I'll look forward to chatting with you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you again. And audience, don't forget to subscribe and follow, and see you in the next episode. Take care.